come together. Obviously we feel much better.
So much better.
Gotta live upright.
Stand tall.
Appreciate the beauty of life. Come together. Obviously we feel much better. Gotta live upright. Appreciate the beauty of life.
You know, I'm not a big fan of the media. Sometimes they just don't turn up the right sort of volume, you know. But real life situations do occur that press is a positive thing. When we getting a message out like this, a lot of people just don't know that they putting disease and seeds in cells so they can make a mill on a healthcare system that's failed. I mean, we can look at it so many ways, from stealing farmers' rights to not letting you even have the right to know what's in the food. So on so many fronts, we definitely gotta raise our voice for food sovereignty. That is the key to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Cause when you ain't hungry, you really have a chance to think about something like a beautiful dream. Exhale the signal to all crews, it's time to celebrate. Come together and make a wake, relate the conscious mind state. For faith we take leaps, meditate on naturalistic, ready to be activated, real life's the catalyst. Worldwide voice and support for new way. It's a unity track as preparations are being made to trap us into cubicles of cancerous city life. Resistance is not futile, we must do what's right. Come together today and every day after this. May all the tribes unite so freedom can exist. You heard, you understood.
May all the tribes unite so freedom can exist.
Come together for all those who can't see the possibility. Day after day going hungry, caged by the depths of poverty. But we live in different reality, too comfortable in our vanity. Must change the status quo, move back to sustainable. Break the chains holding you back, so search where the power's at. All pieces of huddlement, come on, call huddle. Come together because we can, come together to understand. Come together for our brethren, worldwide we will enter towards a new direction. Change on the horizon, way we surviving is when unity's rising. You heard Spokane, you understood.
The way to survive is when unity rises. Come together, obviously we feel much better.
So much better.
Gotta live upright, appreciate the beauty of life. Come together, obviously we feel much better. Gotta live upright, appreciate the beauty of life.
We're your artists, your local representatives on the front lines, trying to pump conscious music into the scene. It's RealLifeRockets.com. It's such a joy to be here, man. I got a special guest. We're about to welcome up.
So I'm Walt Kloefkorn, and I have a small farm up in Springdale that I've run since 1994. And I tell you, participating in what passes for a local agricultural economy has taught me at least one important lesson. Mary Elizabeth Lease, who was a populist back in the 19th century, was 100% correct when she said that farmers should raise less corn and more hell. And that's absolutely the truth, and that's what I'm dedicating myself to these days, because there's an awful lot of people that want to make it impossible for a farmer to make a living unless you're totally indebted and beholden to the corporate system. What's interesting now is that some of these far-right folks that were totally beholden to the corporate way of agriculture 20 years ago are now adamant opponents of GMOs. And they're swearing on the Bible that it's hurting their livestock to be feeding them GMO feed. And there's an event just like this today up in Colville, and it's going to be just as well attended. And that is what's starting to worry Monsanto. So as part of my personal hell-raising campaign, I'm the state coordinator for the Progressive Democrats of America. Now, we're not a part of the Democratic Party, but we are dedicated to making the Democratic Party start doing the right thing. We work inside and outside to build a party and a government controlled by citizens, not corporate elites, with policies that serve the broad public interest, not private interests. And what I'm going to talk about today, I'm going to take for granted that you all know how bad GMOs are for your health, and that they're not good for you, they're not good for animals, they're not good for anything. But even if we set that aside, they're a part of a corporate system that is creating dependency. Even if they weren't unhealthy, they would be a bad thing. They're completely unacceptable. They're designed to destroy local economies and the self-sufficiency and independence necessary for democratic self-government and for broad-based prosperity, something we haven't had in this country for 40 years. Destroying small farms and local economies is part of the corporate agenda, and Monsanto is just a leading actor in that. I'm going to use the words of Elliot Coleman, who's a small farmer on the coast of Maine. He's well known for growing vegetables in the middle of the winter, 2/3 of the way up the Maine coast. And he had this to say a couple years ago. The small organic farm greatly discomforts the corporate industrial mind because the small organic farm is one of the most relentlessly subversive forces on the planet. Over centuries, both the communist and the capitalist systems have tried to destroy small farms because small farmers are a threat to the consolidation of absolute power. Thomas Jefferson said he didn't think we could have democracy unless at least 20% of the population was self-supporting on small farms so they were independent enough to be able to tell an oppressive government to stuff it. It is very difficult to control people who can create products without purchasing inputs from the system, who can market their products directly, thus avoiding the involvement of mercenary middlemen, who can butcher animals and preserve foods without reliance on industrial conglomerates, and who can't be bullied because they can feed their own faces. I think Elliot Coleman was is a very wise man. So Monsanto's only a part of what we're up against, but they are a glaring, blatant example of corporate greed. And I can only thank our stars that they're there, because look, it is Monsanto that is bringing you out here today, and that is the beginning of what we have to hope for. We're up against a very well-organized and well-funded opposition. They're working all the time. They own the media. They own just about everything. We're not going to beat them at their own game. We have only one way to beat them, and that is to create a movement. That is to organize. What we have today, this is activism, and that's a great thing. It's a way you enlarge your base, you teach people, you educate people, but ultimately we must organize. To talk about one of the other threats we face, I'll give you the Trans-Pacific Partnership, a supposed free trade agreement that's being negotiated right now. Now, this isn't freeing anything other than the ability of corporations to make more money and suck more wealth out of working class people. It's being negotiated in secret from the American people. It's being negotiated in secret from our elected representatives and the media as well. Nobody knows about it except 600 corporate advisors who not only get told what's going on, but get to direct what's going on. This agreement will totally destroy the ability of any nation to set any standards whatsoever to protect its people or its environment. And that is their goal. They want to be able to exploit everything for profit, including you, including your children. GMO labeling laws and European bans on GMO products are definitely targeted, and Monsanto is one of the 600 that is sitting at the table while the American people are shut out. This agreement is being negotiated right now. They hope to wrap it up by October, and they're going to try and ram it through Congress on what they call fast track, which is basically saying they get one yes or no vote, no amendments. Well, if we defeat fast track, we defeat this agreement. And we've done that before. Back in the 90s, we have taken down the fast track authority, and that is where that's where the resistance is organizing around. I know the Backbone campaign is having a activist camp over in Bellingham coming up next month. There's some flyers down at the Occupy booth you can get about that. But we absolutely have to get together and stop this TPP. If they pass the Trans-Pacific Partnership and the Transatlantic Agreement that's following behind it, they're going to just look at us and say, well, I'm sorry, that's just an American law. We have a higher law. It's called corporate rule, and this is a restraint on trade, and it cannot be allowed. Even though you voted for it is no longer valid. So, as good as this turnout is today, we don't want to fall into complacency. We need to stay active, and even more important, we need to organize. Every one of you needs to make those personal and those organizational connections so that you can carry on fighting. This isn't just about coming out today and listening to some music and speeches on a nice day. We have to fight. We have to fight in Congress. We have to fight in the state legislators. We have to fight in the streets. The fight is everywhere, and we need all of you. None of us can do everything, but everybody can do something, and we all must, or we're not going to win. And we know what the world will look like if we don't win. We have to change this. We have to turn this around. And rebuilding local economies and restoring local farmers is part of it.
You know, the struggle against GMO food is so much deeper than just what Monsanto's doing. It's also what me and you are doing in our backyards. What we're doing on our weekends, helping out our neighbors, working in communities, being involved. Sustainability and an alternative way of life, I feel, is like a full-time endeavor. And may this struggle against, we know GMOs, unite us in so many fronts, man. I see a lady out here giving away some fresh heirloom vegetables. We got people connecting, they're like, man, I took hundreds of perennial edible starts, and I want to share them with you, and you, and you. One last one. This one goes out to everyone loving this precious place, conscious of how and what we waste, striving for a better way, like the roots and the permaculture people, on and off the grid, cherishing our water and soil, cause all this could be spoiled. We could ruin this incredibleness, like the effect on native culture after the white man's conquest. All this land was someone else's, well preserved and nurtured. Home to the first Americans before they were restructured. So we big enough local tribes, Flathead, Blackfoot, Wakwalla, Spokane, Palouse, Caldwell, and Yakima. We love you all. You got so much to teach that's crucial. Living in harmony with the land and making it even more beautiful, cause it's precious. Let's look around. We got people representing in the downtown March on Monsanto. Yo, we loving y'all. Thank you for representing. Hey!
In the Northwest is incredible. Wild huckleberries made a root yarrow. It's a good thing to know all the blessings that grow ornamental, medicinal, and edible. The in the Northwest is incredible. Wild thimbleberries, camas root, and marshmallow. It's a good thing to know all the blessings that grow ornamental, medicinal, and edible.
Yeah, I hope you hear us in these public buildings around the way. Officials and representatives know the people are raising their voice.
In the Northwest is incredible. Wild huckleberries made a root yarrow. It's a good thing to know all the blessings that grow ornamental, medicinal, and edible.